how do we just be ourselves? Like, is it just sending is it just sending out that positive vibration? Is that being?
No, I think it's simpler than that and maybe a little more complicated for me to explain it. And because I'm not that great at it yet. Remember, I take the dictation for these books. I'm really not the author. I sit there in a chair with my eyes closed and I speak the books, and then somebody else types them up, and then it goes to the publisher. The teaching of being, I can let the guides come through, and then your listeners are going to have to hear me channel, which isn't the most graceful experience to listen to, because I whisper the words and repeat them. I'll step back as myself first. We're basically told what we should want. This is what it means to be successful. This is what it means to be happy. This is what a perfect relationship looks like. All of these things are basically data that we've accrued through this collective agreement of what reality is supposed to be. And we're all trying to get our needs met through these systems that don't necessarily have a whole lot of bearing on reality. The idea of idolatry simply is what you make your God. So if I make my relationship my God, or my job my God, I'm probably going to have a God that fails me at some day, because what happens when the relationship is over or the job is gone? Now, the idea of being, I suspect, has to do with knowing who you are and then expressing from that place. It's not that you're not aspiring to anything, but the guides say at a certain level you begin operating from your knowing. And when you're knowing, you're realizing. To know and to realize means the same thing. To know who you are isn't just to say, hey, this is my name, this is where I go to work, this is what I do. It's to know who you are at a much deeper level, beyond your gender, beyond your occupation, beyond your age, all of the things that we use to sort of create identity or personality here. So I'm going to ask the guides if it's okay what it means just to be.
You are currently listening to Paul Selig. He is the author of the new book, Beyond the Known, Realization, a Channeled Text. And this is actually book one of the Beyond the Known trilogy. And a little about Paul. In 1987, a spiritual experience left Paul clairvoyant. Since then, Paul has established himself as one of the foremost spiritual channels in the world. His unique connection has placed him in contact with the guides, beings of higher intelligence who share their voices and wisdom through him. And this is definitely my favorite episode. So let's get this thing started. Let's get after it. This is Your Superior Self, episode 80, Realization of Your True Self, with author and medium Paul Selig. Now, once realization occurs, realization is present in any idea you may hold of the past. And because the past is just an idea, to realize the past is to realize the moment that you stand in. And consequently, the past is comprehended in the new level of alignment. The idea that you should be someplace else, made some other choice, had a different experience becomes impossible, because in the moment of realization, everything makes sense. Not logically, perhaps, but in innate perfection. You can only be where you are. You could have only chosen this experience to learn through, to realize a sense of self that the soul was coming for the lessons learned. What is going on, Superior Nation? Welcome back to Your Superior Self. I'm Trey Downs, and that excerpt was taken from Paul Selig's new book, Beyond the Known, Realization. I love that excerpt. I love this book. You guys gotta check it out. You gotta pick it up. I want to say thank you for downloading this episode. Thank you for hanging out. If this is your first time listening to the show, please leave a rating and a review and hit subscribe. And I keep thinking about that excerpt because it's like the first time that I read it out loud. I'm not even up to that part in the book, and it's kind of like hitting me in real time of the importance of that excerpt and how it applies to my life, because I sit sometimes and I wonder about the choices that I've made, ideas of the past. And it's making sense. Like I'm having that moment of realization, and you guys are just lucky enough to hear it right now. But to be where you are at in the present, you can only be there, right? And you have a set of decisions and choices to make, and you make that decision. And right now, I'm reflecting on the past, and sometimes I have regrets. Like I wish that I worked harder in some aspects of my life. I wish I'd done things differently. But in those past moments, I made those decisions, and I can't change them. But I'm a result of those choices, and I stand here in the present wanting to get better from those choices, right? Like to learn and realize my sense of self. And it pushes me to get better. It pushes me to go back to college. It pushes me to be a better father. It pushes me to be a better husband because of my past choices. And I know it's kind of like, does it really? Is he really talking about the excerpt in the way that it's written, like the way that it's meant to be? I don't know, but that's what I get from it. That's my personal interpretation of the excerpt. And that's why I love all of Paul's books, because I feel like every time I pick one up and I start reading, it doesn't matter where I'm at in my life, I can apply that immediately. And I've spoken with a lot of his fans and a lot of people that have read his work, and it seems like people just get different interpretations of the texts and different meanings for themselves. And I attribute that to just different life experiences. We all experience life differently, and we all take a different journey. But you can apply whatever you read, like whatever paragraph you read in that book will jump out to you, and you can immediately apply it to your life and see just this calm, this calming presence, this feeling of, wow, like that really does apply to me. And I needed this. I needed to read this book because we forget a lot of things in life, and life can be hectic and crazy at times, and you need to take a moment to read a book like this to get recentered, to restabilize your foundations in life and move forward, and just remind yourself of how great you truly are in this universe. And I'm truly excited for you guys to listen to this interview. I love it. I just love what I'm learning from his books, and I love the fact that I can just I'm experiencing something different. And I don't know exactly what it is yet. I'm still learning for myself, but I'm excited for you guys to hear. If this is the first time you've listened to the show, please hit subscribe, leave a rating and review. That is my co-host in the back. If you're wondering, she is my baby girl, Kara. She never misses an episode nor an interview. She's always with me. She has a lot to say about the guests that I bring on. She loves them, and I hope that you guys do too. So let's go. Let's get after this. I'm so excited. So without further ado, here is my interview, my conversation with Paul Selig. What's up, guys? I'm excited to have for you on the show today. It's kind of weird because I'm like one of his biggest fans, and I just got his new book called Beyond the Known Realization, a Channel Text. His name is Paul Selig, and he has established himself as one of the foremost spiritual channels in the world. Paul, thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for having me.
So this is very different. This is going to be a very different show. So this is going to be like a 101 in channeling. So why don't you go ahead and what are you up to today? What's going on with you?
What am I up to today? Right now I'm speaking with you. I mean, that's what I'm doing today. I just finished channeling the 8th book that the guides have brought through. They've delivered 7 books now that are in print, including Realization, which is coming out shortly. But they keep going. What my job is to take dictation from these spirit guides. And the guides that I work with are bringing through a teaching that's supporting us all in realizing who and what we truly are beyond the ideas that we've held of ourselves that may have been inherited by our culture, the time that we were born into. So my job and my ongoing job is to be working with the guides and taking dictation for them to support other people in their growth.
I love that. How did this all start for you?
Well, I was 25. I had been raised kind of an atheist, and I hit a wall in my life. I was partying too hard. I was trying to be the person that I thought I was supposed to be in the world. And I really hit a wall. And out of sheer necessity, not because I thought it would be nice to get spiritual, I began to look for something more. And I actually started praying for the first time in my life. And I heard this voice telling me to get my act together, which surprised me. And that was the first time I heard a voice. And when I hear, it's not like a voice in the room. It's like a thought that comes to the forefront that crowds out all other thoughts. And it wasn't a thought that one would have chosen or predicted. It sort of interrupts my own thought process. But I began to look for something more. And I had a bit of an awakening when I was 25 to energy. I started feeling energy. And then I started seeing little lights around people. These little things like fireflies started going off. So my reality was being changed through my experience. And I studied a form of hands-on energy healing to get a context for that. And I found that when I had my hands on people's bodies, I could hear things for them that would prove out, that they would confirm. And that was the beginning of clairaudience, which in channeling, which is what I do, is a form of clear hearing or clairaudience. So I started doing a group in my apartment. It met for 18 years. I was a college teacher through all of this and living a very different life and not looking to be known as a channel. And in about 2009, the guides began delivering books through me, speaking entire books that would then be transcribed and then published. So that's what I'm doing, and that's how it came to be. It didn't happen because I was looking for it. It happened almost in spite of me or because I was showing up for it and becoming willing to have this experience.
I've heard a couple of your interviews previously for research of this interview, and it was like you went to it was some lady who was doing a class or something like that, and you went to a seminar, and it was about awakening. Like, was it that seminar or that class that you went to with her teaching that was the moment? And then there was another one that said that you were on top of a rooftop. Was that the moment, or?
Well, it wasn't a moment. It was a series of moments. When I was 25, there was this thing happening. People were calling it the harmonic convergence. It was some celestial event. And I heard people were going to be waking up. And I thought, because I was just starting to believe that there might be something more going on in the universe. And I thought, well, if there is something like a God and you ask to be woken up, why would it want to say no? So I went up to the roof of the building that I lived in the night before this event. I asked, and I ended up having a bit of an experience of energy moving through my body, up through the top of my head, down from the base, up through the top of my head, that people later said sounded like a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. I heard Shakti I heard soul awakening. I may have just been hyperventilating. I don't know what happened up there, but it was an experience of energy. When I studied healing, I worked with this older woman named Ethel. And it was in Ethel's class that I began to open up to having an understanding of how to work with energy in a more practical way. And the one thing that I sometimes talk about from Ethel's class is, a bunch of people standing around in a room, and this lady says, okay, everybody ask for one thing and you're going to get it. And suddenly you feel this current come into the room, and there's no way that you can avoid feeling it. And for me, it was such a powerful experience of a group awareness of phenomena or God or something more, that it showed me that this could be so. And if this can really be so, it means that nothing's quite what I thought it was. So there were a number of things that happened and continue to happen, frankly, over the years that steer my path or keep me on this path, often when I want to run for the hills from it. And I suspect that's true for most of us when we become willing to wake up to the possibility that there's something more. I believe that we're often shown a way. We're given the breadcrumbs to follow or the evidence we need or the teachers we need to trust and step forward into our own awareness.
Mm. So when you started realizing this energy and feeling that, like, what was going on in your mind? Like, was it, I mean, you're 25 years old, you're a young man. Like, I imagine it was pretty hard to like comprehend.
Well, the thing on the roof was exciting for me because I'd asked, and something was happening, and I was enough of an atheist, I think, still, that I wanted to have an experience of something that I could trust or know as my own. And I got it. I couldn't pretend it wasn't happening. And when I work, and I work with my guides and they do workshops, the guides bring the energy through in a way that people can experience it. I often have to say, I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm not a guru. I'm not interested in being either of those things. But I am seemingly able to support other people in having an experience of this phenomena in a way that they can claim for themselves. I think it's much more valuable that anybody has an experience themselves that they can know is true than have somebody tell them what they should be experiencing. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but
yeah. I mean, I guess my curiosity is like, what are the basics that I need to know if I want to up my vibration, right? And explain to my listeners what that vibration is.
Well, the guides say we're all in vibration. We're all in resonance. They say we're all radios. And the broadcast of the radio that we are is the consciousness we hold. And like attracts like. You people have heard of, law of attraction stuff. So the vibration that you hold and the belief systems that you hold correlate to a level of experience. So what my guides do through energetic attunements is teach us how to tune the dials on the radios that we are to play the higher broadcast. And the higher broadcast can be felt, it can be experienced. It really does change how one experiences oneself and the world one lives in. If you look at the possibility that everything that you see, you're in vibrational accord to, which basically means like attracts like, the note that you're playing of the music of your field, energetic field, is in resonance with comparable notes. You can understand that if you lift in vibration to a higher level of vibration or a higher octave of sound or tone, you'll start calling different things to you. Go on.
How do I, so what are some techniques, or is it just mindset to lift my vibration?
I mean, the guides work with attunements, so I can explain some of the attunements to you and take you through if you want. They're really simple.
Sure.
But there tends to be a correlation word. So the first attunement that the guides brought through was the attunement that they called to the word. And their definition of the word was the energy of the creator in action. And you can just say this after me if you want. Your listeners are welcome to as well. And I'll try to explain it after I take you through it. They would say, I am word through my body.
I am word through my body.
Word, I am word.
Word, I am word.
I am word through my vibration.
I am word through my vibration.
Word, I am word.
Word, I am word.
I am word through my knowing of myself.
I am word through my knowing of myself.
As word.
As word.
Word, I am word.
Word, I am word.
Now, to unpack it, the word as the energy of the creator in action, you're claiming the physical body you're taking as moving into alignment with that. The energetic field or your auric field, the energy that you're in, that you're part of, that's I am word through my vibration. And then I am word through my knowing of myself as word, which is reclaiming identity, that the who that you are is really this other who, this higher way of being recognized. The second set of attunements that they brought through is towards embodiment. And you can say this. And the aspect of the self, I should explain, that says this, that claims these things, are what the guides call the true self. They say what is true is always true. And there's an aspect of all of us that holds the seed of the creator, whatever you want to call that, the universe within us. And that's the self that makes these claims. So you can say this if you wish. I know who I am in truth.
I know who I am in truth.
I know what I am in truth.
I know what I am in truth.
I know how I serve in truth.
I know how I serve in truth.
I am free, I am free, I am free.
I am free, I am free, I am free.
Good. You're shifting because I can feel it, and that's what I do in my work. So the claim, I know who I am, as claimed by the true self, is again a reclaiming of identity beyond the idea of who you are to the truth of who you are. I know what I am in truth, the body itself, in recognition that the body cannot be separate from its source. So the source of your identity is whatever you want to call the creator, whatever name you want to give it, the body as well. I know who I am, what I am in truth. And the guides say, I know how I serve in truth is simply how one is most fully expressed as the true self. How you in the highest way expresses. The claim, I am free, I am free, I am free, is again claimed by the true self who can only be free. And by free, they're speaking of free of the collective belief in what we're allowed, in what those limitations are, in the belief that we're separate from our source or the people next to us. It's a large claim. Now, what the guides are doing here, if I understand it, is they're attuning us, really body, mind, spirit, to play the higher octave. So when people begin to work with this, you can often feel the shifts incrementally as you go up. So when I do workshops, they'll often have people do this after they're attuned to the word, and you can try it and see what you get. Mm-hmm. Close your eyes for a second and just say this if you want. I am word through my right foot.
I am word through my right foot.
Word, I am word.
Word, I am word.
Now you may start feeling the energy going into the foot. Mm-hmm. And do this, I am word through my lungs. Word, I am word.
I am word through my lungs. Word, I am word.
And if you feel the energy start going into the lungs, into the respiratory system, you'll know that the energy is moving through you. And you can do this for another as well. When you make the claim for another, I know who you are in truth. I know what you are in truth. I know how you serve in truth. The guides say you're claiming what is always true. You can't make anybody holy. Everybody already is holy. That's what they would say. So you're claiming and you're knowing the inherent divinity that must be expressed in the one you see or the one you're thinking about, or for that matter, everybody and everything. The guides say again and again, God, if you want to call it that, is all things or nothing. You really can't exclude any part of reality from it, because then you start operating in separation. They say again and again, you can't be the light and hold another in darkness. It's just not possible. It's the hypocrisy of many religions to do that. But finally, you end up harming yourself by that claim. So the attunements are a really easy way in to an experience of this, but they're not magic words. The guides say that the language that they work with is encoded and encoded with vibration. So to a certain extent, what they do is kind of like playing a jukebox, and you plug in a couple of numbers and a record plays, a certain broadcast plays. When you work with the attunements, you're aligning yourself to the claim, and the broadcast or the energy can be there and can be felt in most cases if people are working with this. Getting comfortable there and integrating what that means is the process of growth. Because I can claim I know who I am in truth. It's always true at the level of the divine self, but I'm still operating with this personality that's pretty thick and pretty resistant. So the opportunity here is to re-know who you are at the cost of what you thought you were. And it's a big shift, but people can begin with this. The books are helpful because the books themselves are attunements to the higher energy. And when the first book came out, nobody knew anything about what I did or how any of this worked. But the first book came out and people started leaving these reviews on Amazon saying, I'm reading this book and my body's vibrating. I'm reading this book and I'm seeing auras. And it's continued that way with all of the books. The guides that write through me, the books are actually working with the reader to support them in operating in a higher way.
Mm. Yeah, the books, I love them. It's like this, especially the first one is like this intro to raising your vibration. Now, in this book that I've been reading, your newest book that's going to be released in August, Realization, they talk about an upper room. What is that?
Upper room is a level of vibration. So imagine what the guides say is this, that we're collectively operating in an octave, like an octave of music, you know? It's a shared collective reality that we've been taught and we know and we expect. The upper room is the octave above this. The guides say that any piece of music can be played in any octave up into infinity. It never stops. You understand? You can play the note C on a keyboard well beyond where the keyboard ends off into forever. So the upper room is a level of vibration. They describe it finally as Christ mind, and their definition of Christ has always been the aspect of the Creator that can be realized in material form. It's a level of consciousness that you can align to. And as you align there, you're actually able to lift what you encounter to it. You can lift things to the upper room by your realization of who and what you are. The guides say you actually become kind of a doorway or a portal for your experience. What you encounter at this level of vibration that you're holding, you're actually lifting to the upper room by nature of being.
There is a part in this book that I underlined, and it talks about, the small self, and the small self wants the better job, the happier life, the things in the world that are probably more physical than anything. But then in the book you call it idolatry, right? Because we're idolizing those things. And if the guides were to talk to us and we were to ask them how to make us happy, they wouldn't give us ways to make us happy. They say something of like, you just have to be, right? Just be ourselves, be our Christ-like self. How do we just be ourselves? Like, is it just sending is it just sending out that positive vibration? Is that being?
No, I think it's simpler than that and maybe a little more complicated for me to explain it, and because I'm not that great at it yet. Remember, I take the dictation for these books. I'm really not the author. I sit there in a chair with my eyes closed and I speak the books, and then somebody else types them up, and then it goes to the publisher. The teaching of being, I can let the guides come through, and then your listeners are going to have to hear me channel, which isn't the most graceful experience to listen to, because I whisper the words and repeat them. I'll step back as myself first. We're basically told what we should want. This is what it means to be successful. This is what it means to be happy. This is what a perfect relationship looks like. All of these things are basically data that we've accrued through this collective agreement of what reality is supposed to be. And we're all trying to get our needs met through these systems that don't necessarily have a whole lot of bearing on reality, The idea of idolatry simply is what you make your God. So if I make my relationship my God or my job my God, I'm probably going to have a God that fails me at some day, because what happens when the relationship is over or the job is gone? Now, the idea of being, I suspect, has to do with knowing who you are and then expressing from that place. It's not that you're not aspiring to anything, but the guides say at a certain level you begin operating from your knowing. And when you're knowing, you're realizing. To know and to realize means the same thing. To know who you are isn't just to say, hey, this is my name, this is where I go to work, this is what I do. It's to know who you are at a much deeper level, beyond your gender, beyond your occupation, beyond your age, all of the things that we use to sort of create identity or personality here. So I'm going to ask the guides if it's okay what it means just to be. Okay, and we'll see if they want to come through. Thank you, yes. I actually hear thank you, yes. To be is to realize self. To be is to realize the self without the expectations, of who one should be, of who one should be. The presupposition, the information inherited, that was ascribed to, that you would ascribe meaning to. It's who you are without the ideas. It's who you are without the ideas of who you should be, of who you should be. from your being. From your being, you may know, and as you know, you will act. And as you know, you will act, and you'll move into accord, and you will move into accord with your greatest joy, your highest truth, your greatest ability, as the truth helps express through you, as the true self expresses through you. You're all seeking to get what you think you should have. You're all seeking to get what you think you should have, and your ideas of what you should have, and your ideas of what you should have, or inherited ideas, are inherited ideas. You rarely question the meaning of them. You rarely question the meaning of them. You presume them to be true. You presume them to be true because that has been the agreement here, which is on us. We are taking you well beyond this to a higher strata, higher accord, higher way of being, higher way of being, where who you are in articulation or embodiment is who you've always been, is who you have always been in a true way, period. Mm-hmm. And you're saying period.
That's powerful. Now, when you channel like that, I know they're talking and speaking through you. Do you ever see them at all? Like have visions of them? I know there's 6, right? That channel through you. Do you ever I know you have discussed you are the vehicle. It's kind of riding in you take the back seat of a car and they kind of drive the vehicle. But do you ever get to witness them in any sense?
One I've seen a few times. And I think if I had a better meditation practice and I was more diligent and I asked to see them more, I probably would. I have psychics and mediums that come to my workshops and see a bunch of them show up, and I get the reports on it. The one that I see, the first time I saw him was under hypnosis. Somebody hypnotized me for some other reason, and I decided to ask my guide to show up. And I didn't expect anything to happen, and sure enough, there he was. And even though I hadn't seen him before, I knew it was him because it felt like him, and I recognized him in a very deep and beautiful way. He was, this older man with a long beard and this strange hat. It was like what you wear at graduation, like a peak cap, but it went up, 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 and then it had some kind of flat thing at the top, like a board at the top, and a robe, and he held I don't know what you call it, a staff, or I don't know if there's a scepter is what it looked like to me, that wasn't engraved, it was embossed. There were raised hieroglyphics on it. And he showed it to me, and he said, basically, this is what we use to attune people. And he had these beautiful, beautiful, wise blue eyes. There was deep compassion in them. And I recognized them, and I've been told, although I haven't seen it, that when I'm channeling, my eyes often turn bright blue. And I have hazel eyes, but very often after a workshop, I'll say, what color are my eyes? And people say blue. And then they come up and look, and they're not, and I don't wear contacts. And I don't know how this happens. It's been happening for years. And he's shown up on 2 other occasions. Once to give me a message, and it was kind of funny because he basically told me to stop trying to explain to other people who I was because I really didn't know. I really didn't understand it, and it was an admonition. He was setting me straight. And the other time I saw him, he was actually in a library, which I'd never seen before. It was an enormous library, and he was studying. He was before books. The guides are teachers. That's what I know, and they've come to teach. So that's my experience. Mostly I know the differentiation between them through the slight differences in language that I'll hear, depending on who's coming through. There's one guide who I think practically dictated a book called The Book of Truth, which was the 5th book that the guides delivered. And that guide likes to use the word dear, which is a word that makes me crazy. I never use it. It was the first time I kept hearing dear, and I kept hating it every time I would say it. But that was the language. And it was a very, very careful dictation. I mean, that book came through as if somebody had written the entire book and was reading it to me. It was so careful. Other times, the dictation feels slightly more immediate or there's more bluster to it. There's one guide, which is the one with the hat, as far as I'm concerned, who likes to talk about music and singing. And there's something rather joyous about the way he presents the language. But I experience them as a collective. I don't know how many there are, truthfully. I've heard 9, I think, in the Book of Mastery. They said there are 9 of us here today, and that was a day when I was getting in the way, and they were basically telling me to go take a walk around the block so they could just dictate their book, because I kept resisting stuff. And I do resist it when I don't understand it or when I'm too challenged by it. I don't write these things, but my name's on the cover, and I don't want people to be misled by them. You know, it's important for me to comprehend this. And so if they're teaching something and I'm having a rough time, I've been known to interrupt, and then they address it.
Well, how does it make you feel? Like you just said that your name is just on the book, right? So like when you when you publish these books, or the publisher publishes them and your name's on it, like how do you feel about that? Like, what are there fears about, like, because you're saying you're trying to understand the text for yourself and you're trying to learn it, like, does it worry you at all that, like, people will you, because like I was writing questions and I was going to ask you some of this stuff, but like some of the things I don't know if you'll know or the guides will know or what, but it's like, what are your feelings on that?
About how it feels to have a book that I didn't write in the world?
Yeah.
It's challenging. You know, I had been a playwright when I was young, and I was good at it, and I taught it for years. When I wrote something that was my own creation, I felt a real sense of achievement and pride, and I cared whether you liked it or not. And this is a very different thing. It's really channeling, I suspect, in some ways. True channeling is stenography. It's taking dictation and taking it accurately. The books that come through me aren't edited. They're not crafted. I don't go back and rewrite anything. If there's a word that doesn't make any sense, more than likely it's going to wind up in the book anyway if that's the way it was spoken. To understand, I think in any book there may be 3 words that are changed or corrected in the entire dictation of, thousands and thousands of words, and that's usually because I was speaking too quickly, or I dropped a word because I was going so fast when I was taking the dictation. That's the extent of it. So my experience with the books, truthfully, is relief. Like another one came through and it all made sense. Because when I'm taking the dictation, I'm hearing everything in phrases. If you can imagine reading 500 fortune cookies one after another, that's what an afternoon of channeling is like. And I don't know whether the whole thing holds together until I see the transcript. The audience can hear it, and they can put it together because they're following a narrative. I'm too busy trying to keep up with what I'm hearing. So it's not a satisfying process creatively. I feel like the books are in collaboration with me, or the guides are collaborating with me to the extent that they're being spoken by me. They're using my language at times, my memory at times, but I don't feel that they're my books, so I don't feel a great sense of achievement. I had been a writer with the worst case of writer's block of anybody I've ever met. I mean, it was brutal. And I was running a graduate writing program, so that was a hard thing for me. And the fact that there are now 9 books that have been dictated through me in as many years that don't require editing makes no sense. And when people ask me, how I believe this stuff, it's really simple. I don't care how articulate I am. I'm not capable of dictating all of these books with my eyes closed now in front of audiences that don't require correction. And the energy comes through in a way that's palpable. So it's a challenging relationship with the material because it's a bit like being the ventriloquist puppet, Mm-hmm. That's the truth.
Do you ever struggle with, do you ever wonder, what am I doing here? Like, what is my meaning? What am I supposed to do?
Well, at this time in my life, I feel that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But I suppose I did before. When I taught college, I really loved it. I was very good at it. I enjoyed it enormously. It was my spiritual practice in some ways. So my questions about my life and what I'm doing here are more selfish. They're more like, why am I still single? Or why can't I get my ass to the gym? Or why, don't I let myself worry less, And these are all my quote unquote small self things. I still have a personality. I still struggle. And at the same time, I have to say I've been given, more evidence than many people and more proof that there's more going on than we can see just on first glance and with our senses. Mm-hmm. So
do you have to get rid of the small self completely, or is that something you just kind of monitor?
Well, this is, when I was, I don't know how old you are, probably your age, and I was just opening up to Channel, and I was struggling. I was having a rough time, and I'm 99.9% sure I heard this in Channel because I wrote it down because I didn't really understand it, and I stuck it in a book. And this is what the guide said to me at that time. I heard, freedom will come when the throne relinquishes its king. Had no idea what it meant. Now I understand it. Basically, who's sitting in the throne? Who's ruling the kingdom? If it's my personality self, that's the small self is running the show. If it's the true self operates in a different kingdom, a different awareness of reality. The small self, I understand, is assumed or taken in by the true self. It's part of you. It's part of me. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem with it is it thinks it's the king, and it thinks it's its job to run everything. And that's not what I hear. The guides speak to the small self sometimes as a mask. It's the personality structure. You don't get rid of personality, but you stop wrongly identifying with the mask that you've worn. And you understand, that's what that is, and this is what lies beneath the mask, which is who one truly is. Mm. Mm.
I underlined this phrase in the book a couple of times because it speaks directly to me. It says, "So do not seek glory for your work in humility." And that's so powerful to me because I feel like I struggle with trying to make a name for myself and try to create this life that I want, right? So everything up to this point, and you can read the book and read it for yourself, but I made a lot of decisions in fear. Mm-hmm. And I got to where I am today because a lot of the decisions I made that were in fear. And now that I've awakened to that, I'm trying to redirect and create a life that I guess that the small self wants, that I'm starting to realize. And the podcast and me working extra hard and going back to college and things of that nature, right? So I guess with the podcast, I want it to work so bad. It's like I'm seeking too much glory for that. And I need to work in humility. I need to just be pure with my work, be pure with the interviews, and be pure with, and just let the art flow, right? And just let it, the interview happen, and not try to be so perfect with it. And just this right here, I was just reading it today before the interview, and it spoke to me on so many different levels.
Well, you're in a really good place. If you're getting this now, you're ahead of the game. There's nothing wrong with showing up, and there's nothing wrong with showing up and giving your best effort. I suspect where we get screwed up is when we stop predicating everything on the outcome or how we're seen, and what it looks like, and if it's going to give us what we think we're supposed to get from it. I show up. I do a lot of workshops now. I mean, maybe too many. I show up, 3 times a month and do these events, and every Wednesday night pretty much I'm doing it online. And every time I show up, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know what they're going to say. It's like standing on a diving board and you're going to jump into a pool and you hope there's water in it. And I've gotten used to that at this point. My job finally is to show up. And, you know, some of it they say in 12-step land that I like, which is you take the action and you turn the results over to God. You know, you said something important early on. It's one of the things that the guides say all the time. They say the action of fear is to claim more fear. And if you look at any choice you make in fear, you can kind of see where it got you. Probably it got you more fear, because fear creates its own trajectory. And if we can do anything in a day, which might be simple and helpful, it might be don't take actions based in fear. You sound great to me, but, you know, I had a list of things I had to have achieved by the time I was 25 that I thought would make me okay in the world, and I got the whole list, and I was a train wreck, you know, and it was a fancy list, and I got it, and it didn't do it. So it's not that there are things that I don't hope for or wish for. I suspect humility really is about, how can I say this, letting yourself be who you are without the demand that you be something other to fulfill some outside idea. But there's nothing wrong with showing up for your life fully and in integrity. And if there's success that comes with that, that then is the byproduct for having worked well. It's not necessarily the point of it. Do you understand? Yeah. It's my opinion.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think for my entire life, I basically been I mean, it's hard for me to admit this. I'm going to be total transparent. Is that I've been a follower, and I've done things other people have done because I see their success in it, and I haven't really known success for myself, and I haven't really had a passion in life. It was always like I was just drifting. I was just going through the motions to make other people happy. And today I stand here and I have the podcast. I have this energy to help others, and I don't know what that success looks like. And, you know, in your readings and your books, it's helped me deal with that I shouldn't be going after those things. I should be my true self. I should find happiness in that. And when I raise my vibrations, you know, through that, that's where I'll find like the true happiness. Mm-hmm. You know, when I get to that upper room, when I start, you know, experiencing those levels of, you know, attunement, then that's what success should be for me.
But you see, even if you use that as a measuring stick, you're creating a goal out of it. Mm-hmm. And the guides have said, you know, the small self or the personality self isn't who gets enlightened. It doesn't really work that way. So, would you mind just speaking your whole name for me? I just want to tune into you if you don't mind. Just say it.
All right. So I am Edward Downs III.
And you go by?
Trey.
Let me step into you and see if I can get you. See, when I tune into you, you come through saying, I just don't want to mess up anymore. That's all I want. I don't want to mess up. And then you wait to see if you're doing it right. And you want to be. You know, you're open. You're open at the heart level to what you can be and do. So let me see what you might need here. I don't know why I'm doing this with you, but I am. So saying, tell the young man he can have what he wants. But just don't measure his self-worth on whether or not he gets it. He is worthy without achievement, without being one way or another, without being one way or another. Each one is. You have worth, inherent worth. You have worth, inherent worth, that cannot be dictated by something outside yourself. When you know this, what success is becomes your expression, your simple expression, what you gift the world with, what you gift the world with by nature of your being, I mean, I'm asking, and they're saying he can do the podcast if he wishes, whatever he wishes to do. He can do whatever he wishes to do. You have choices in life. You have choices in a life. You will through all of them. You will learn through all of them. Alignment to the higher. Alignment to the higher is available regardless of what you do, is available regardless of what you do. You don't have to sacrifice a career to enter into the upper room, to enter into the upper room. But you cannot make the career the upper room, or you'll be in deceit, or you will be in deceit. Do you understand this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The upper room is through me, not anything else. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, man. Thank you for that. That is some intense stuff. Like that is, thank you. Do the guides do that quite a bit? Do they come to you? Like say you're out in public. Do you always hear them?
I have to ask. They don't interrupt, I've often said if I want to walk into traffic, they'll let me. They won't stop me. But if I say, is this a good time to cross the street? They'll say, not wise. So we have free will. They don't override it. But they do come when asked. It's not easy for me to read for myself when I have an investment in an outcome. If I like somebody and I want to know if it's going to work out, I don't want to hear no, So I'll go to my friend who's a psychic, and we'll trade readings. But I do get good support from the guides in my daily life about not making choices based in fear.
Do they give you relationship advice?
If I'm making choices in fear, yeah, I do a lot. I mean, I have a practice, people come to me for the relationship stuff all the time. I have this odd ability to be able to step into other people. So if you want to know what's going on with your sister and to give me your sister's name, I can step into your sister. I may start to look like her and I can hear the dynamic between the two of you. So that's what I do in my practice. When I'm hearing the guides, I'm taking dictation from them. So my own personal stuff, it's a little more challenging to read for oneself because, I can read for you because I'm neutral to you. I don't have an investment in what your actions should be. I don't have any shoulds at all as they regard you other than, I hope that you are a happy man in your life. But you might be learning your greatest lessons through unhappiness, and who am I to make that wrong? Do you understand?
Yeah, absolutely. I am learning a ton right now in my life, and I'm I just did a 30-day challenge of running, right? Because I hate running, but I did it to build myself mentally and to do things that I don't like. I'm happy in the sense that I'm willing to do things to create that higher self, to test myself. And I wasn't always like that. Like I would always take the easy way out because I was scared of pain, or I was scared of what the result may be. And now I'm not. Like I truly am not scared to fail, because you only fail that one time. Like if I do like the podcast, if I fail with it, I fail with it. But you know how many life lessons I've learned in this, and how many people I've connected with, like yourself, like great people, good people who I love, like just being around and talking with and having discussions. And that's the reward. And I have to stop like trying to mirror my podcast, like certain people, right? Like the Joe Rogans and, I saw you in Aubrey Marcus, I think his name is, and they're just different people. They're not Trey Downs. They're their own individuals. And my journey is so different than theirs. And I just need to keep reminding myself that, and that, I'm here to learn my lesson.
You're nailing it. You really are. You've got it. I have to tell myself the same thing. I don't channel the way some people think that I should. I don't look like some people think I should. I'm cranky, I complain, I have all these things that, I go, why should anybody listen to what comes out of my mouth? But I show up as authentically as I can for the work that comes through me. That's what I can do. The moment I start pretending to be somebody that I'm not, if you ever see me wearing white and a turban, something's really wrong. You know what I mean? And it's just I can't be other than who I am, and that's what I'm hearing from you. And that's where your success is, frankly, because nobody can be you but you. And that's the gift you have to offer. The claim, I know how I serve, is about showing up in your highest expression. And if your highest expression is supposed to look like somebody else's, more than likely it ain't yours to begin with, So you're the gift you bring to the world, not your idea of what that gift should look like according to somebody else's plan or primer.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Do you ever get like, I'm assuming that the guides are, I don't know where they're at, but do you ever get like readings from people that have passed over that are in the afterlife?
I don't do a lot of it. I mean, I have friends, and that's their gift. They're spiritual mediums. I'm always surprised when I'm doing a reading and somebody comes through from the other side, because the bandwidth that I seem to be on are people that still have bodies. I've successfully tuned into people who've been in comas or had locked-in condition children who don't have access to speech, and I'm told, quite accurate in those readings. I can still hear them because they're still connected to the body. And when people have crossed, it's like it's a different radio station for me. But if they want to come through, they do, and it's just not my regular work.
Because I've been getting big into near-death experiences. I just picked up the Dead Saints Chronicles, and I've been reading that along with your book. And it's kind of like, it's just like it's opened this whole different world to me, and just understanding like, once you pass, like that whole traditional heaven and hell thing, like to me isn't real. It's like everything is love, right? So once you cross over to the other side, you feel that love and you feel this peace, and like everybody that has talked about it in this book, there's like 100 accounts of near-death experiences and testimonials about this feeling. They don't want to come back to their body, basically, because they don't want to escape this place that they're in. And this love, right? This love that you're feeling. Like, I just wish that, in this earthly place that we're at, that we could, with the small self being the small self, and like, making us, selfishly go after some of these, goals. I just wish we could portray some more of that love.
I do too. I mean, it's what the guides say it can be done, and that's the teaching that they're bringing through. I mean, the guides teach, they call it the kingdom, and they say the kingdom is the awareness of the divine in all things, in all manifestation. And the one who sees it is the one who's aligned at that level, who operates from that place of consciousness. They say, God sees God in everything. And as you align as the true self, you operate as an agent of that, an expression of that. I can't say that I'm there. When I'm channeling, I can feel it. I know what it's like to be there. It can be extraordinary to feel that love. So I know it exists. But I think if that's your aspiration for your life and your world, it's a beautiful one. Mm-hmm. And, hold it, and ask that it be made known to you. I asked when I was in my early 30s, maybe 30, 31. This old teacher I had said, write down one thing you want and you're going to get it. And I wrote it down. And I had a couple of larger experiences with spirit that made me know that there was something more. I knew it. And I'd had a taste of it, and I never wanted to taste anything else after that. And then those experiences went away. And then that was hard for me and very sad. But I do remember writing down on this piece of paper in that class something to the extent of, I want to go all the way. If this is true, I want to go all the way with it. And I believe that the books that are coming through me are in some ways an answer to that request. It's a way. It's not the only way. There are other ways. I don't know if I'll ever live in the upper room full time. I hope after all this, that I get to at least vacation there regularly. That would be a blessing. But, you know, the last book that they dictated knocked the crap out of me. And it's the book after realization. It's called Alchemy. And it's about what happens between floors, you know, between the basement and the upper room. That's where you get to look at all your crap. And I'm still reeling from that. It hasn't stopped. But, you know, I think it's part of the passage. You know, I don't think there's a magic wand here. I think there's willingness and there's opportunity. You know, I'll leave it at that.
Paul, how can people connect with you?
Through my website. It's my name, PaulSelig.com. I'm on, you know, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all those places. And I channel on Wednesday nights. And there's information on that on my live stream. And I do events all over the place. So, you know, it's another way to check out what I do. And the books are to be found, you know, on all the normal sites, Amazon, IndieBound, and Barnes & Noble, and all those things.
I love it, Paul. I want to say thank you personally. Thank you so much for taking the time, for coming on the show and channeling for us and helping us raise our vibration.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this talk. I really did. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Paul for coming on the show and hanging out and just crushing this interview. I loved every second of it, and I've learned so much from our conversation. I hope you guys did too. If this is your first time listening, please hit subscribe and leave a rating and a review. It helps me scale the podcast and get it into the earbuds of others who haven't heard of us yet. You can follow me on Instagram at tdowns80 and on Twitter at downstrey. You can find me on Facebook. I have a little Your Superior Self fan page over there, so check us out over there. You can also go to yoursuperiorself.com, sign up for my email list, and receive all of the new episodes, blog posts, and news about the podcast directly in your inbox. Or if you don't feel like doing that, you can text the word superior to 444-999, and that would automatically sign you up for the email list. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It has been an honor to have Paul on the show. Thank you guys so much for downloading this episode and hanging out with me today. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great week. So until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.